Welcome to today's episode. Last year I've reached out to you with a survey to ask you, what does hybrid cloud mean to you? It was quite difficult in the beginning to get enough data entry points back, and many of you have helped me by resharing my request for people to fill out the survey. So in the end we ended up with 16, which is awesome, and thank you very much for everybody that retweeted me or reshared a blog post on LinkedIn to really drive that data input. So I've took some time over the holidays to analyze the data. And one thing that I guess most of you already knew or assumed is the one thing that everything had in common is that pretty much nobody defines hybrid cloud the same way. Let me just read to you a few entry points that stood out to me. How would you define hybrid environment in your own words? So that's in the words of the participants of this survey. So one person wrote, a hybrid environment is one that combines classic on-premise IT infrastructure with cloud-based infrastructure. So that I think is what most people would think of, but he is pretty much the only one that wrote it. There are similar ones that you could say means the same thing, but it's not the same words. One that I really liked was hybrid double trouble. One person wrote mix and match of all you have under your control. So here's a person that looks more holistically across all of you have under your control and not just specifically on-premise and cloud. We have delivering services to end users using a combination of on-premises and public cloud infrastructure in a secure manner. Hybrid cloud, consistent way of operating and managing on-premises and in public cloud environment. For example, Azure, Azure Stack, AWS, AWS Outpost, GCP Anthos, VMware on AWS, multi-cloud, disparate environments connected together but managed differently or independently. For example, Azure plus AWS or AWS plus Azure Stack. So I will put it up online so you can download the spreadsheet where I put all the answers in. There hasn't been really a clear pattern of what it means. And I think that's what we also see reflected again when media is writing about it. They're just taking one product or one thing from any of the cloud provider and says that's hybrid or this is hybrid. But given that we can't even agree 16 people on that's the clear definition, shows that there is, different opinions and it means different things to different people. Also interesting was when asking what are common hybrid use cases in the enterprise. Also there, it wasn't a clear winner. There was 80% went that or 20%. It's really just as the definition all over the place. When we look at things what people wrote, web front end, mid-tier in public cloud and data on premises. That's one person, for example. One person wrote home office, not sure what to do with that. We have edge, latency sensitive, HPC, where cloud is expensive. So that's a use case scenario for that person. One wrote Exchange Active Directory. One wrote, is this an exam? Thought it was a survey. So I guess I'm sorry if I offended you, if it was you that filled it out. Some people have the more traditional workloads like backup, disaster recovery, application resilience, redundancy, long-term retention. Some have container, clusters, VM skill sets. But you see it really goes, again, across all over the place. I have one person, very detailed authentication databases, web tiers, private and public cloud scenarios, high scalable dynamic environments like Black Friday, invest what is needed. So it is, it confirms again what I think many of us knew is there is so many different use cases. There is so many different definitions, which makes it almost impossible. But it definitely does not help then when I say press or analysts just say this equals hybrid cloud. Now, besides these two questions, the other questions looked more around the topic of, list 3 common things or list your first enterprise IT workloads. So I want to take a look with you and share with you what came out, because I took the data, and so the data I give you to download is the raw data, how I got it from the survey. I cleaned some up. So if somebody wrote governance and the other person wrote data privacy or whatever, I tried to make sure that I can display to you what is important in a certain area or what are people prioritize and what is on top of their mind. So let's take a look. What three words and key attributes come to mind when describing what's important for a hybrid environment running in your enterprise IT? When we look here, and the squares indicate a lot of people that mention security, that's why the square is bigger and so on. So if we're just focusing on the very left side, we see security comes to mind. Simplicity, so simplicity is important, should be easy. Management, like worrying or focusing around what does that mean to manage these two environments, and connectivity. When we look back at definition or even at use cases, connectivity I think is kind of like taken for granted, but here when asking what's important, then connectivity is actually in the top side of things that are important. When you hear hybrid environment running in your enterprise IT, what three things pop to your mind immediately? So what do you think of? You see cloud, top, on-premises, and again connectivity. So connectivity here again is very on the top, but very rarely do you see an analyst or press when writing about hybrid actually talk about connectivity or the connectivity possibilities of the cloud providers. So I will make an episode on connectivity specifically with Azure and for hybrid, like applicable to hybrid environments, so you have an idea what Microsoft offers on that side. Then when asked, what was your first hybrid cloud workload? And identity jumps out. Everybody uses identity, which I do attribute or contribute to research I was able to do at work, which the majority of people, really I think everybody but one, said Office 365. And here I assume maybe a bit more technical people. So before they actually moved mailboxes out, they kind of like synced their on-premise Active Directory with Azure Active Directory, and ergo was their first hybrid cloud workload. But you see, from after identity, which is a bit overwhelming, it goes all over the place. You have from data, servers, web, testing, SQL, DBs. You have, again, a lot of people use different words, but it's like, again, very far spread. It's not the same for everybody. And then the last question I've asked was like to write down what would be the keywords you search for when you search for hybrid cloud information. So let's say you want to learn more about what are the hybrid cloud offerings of the different cloud providers. And you go to the web, Google, Bing, and you start searching. What are the three keywords that you would search for? As you see, hybrid cloud and Azure are the very big ones. That made me happy. Google shows up to my surprise. AWS or Amazon didn't make the top cut here. I guess I can laugh a little bit since I am working for Azure. It's very fragmented. It's not a very clear pattern except the three big winners. Then we have data, clusters, and again, management also shows up. Which then again, when you think specifically what Microsoft is trying to do or is doing with Azure Arc and enabling that management control layer. Now, as a control data, I also looked at Google Trends. If you don't know, you can search for Google Trends. You can search any terms and it will give you some ideas of related topics, who is searching the most about it. And so, for example, here I looked just hybrid cloud into the Google Trend. And when I look at the top 10 of the related queries to hybrid cloud, we have what is hybrid cloud at the top, hybrid cloud computing, hybrid storage cloud, public-private hybrid cloud services, hybrid cloud security, and then we have Azure, AWS after Azure, that made me happy again, hybrid cloud solutions and hybrid cloud management. So here we have management and solutions, security, which we have seen also consistent with some of the data inputs. What we haven't seen here necessarily is connectivity. When we look at what are related topics that people search in connection to hybrid cloud online, on the topics we have cloud computing, storage, computing twice, but not cloud computing on the top, Microsoft Azure, then data storage, AWS, data, hybrid security management. So again, security and management, super big layers. And that shows you also a little bit the importance with management, that it's important that it's more than just Kubernetes management, but also server management and other resource types. What I found kind of interesting is when you look at interest by region. So who is searching for hybrid cloud, that term the most? On top spot number 1, it's Laos, Singapore, United Arab Emirates, we have Vietnam, Australia, India, United Kingdom, and Malaysia. What surprised me the most is a few of these countries do have a local data center, so I was surprised to see them that high up in the of countries that search for hybrid cloud. You'll see the source at the bottom, so that's trendsgoogle.com. I searched for worldwide data, and it's basically the past 30 days, the past 12 months of data that gives you these results, so you're more than welcome to check. But again, what does that mean for us? What do I do with that data? That data to me is a very helpful argument point that when I talk to analysts, when I react to press articles to say, hey, hybrid is so much bigger than what you're making it. When you're just saying like hybrid equals Outpost as an example, or hybrid equals Azure Stack for that matter, you leave out a whole bunch of scenarios. Now the cloud providers, they very obviously gonna have some what they call hero offerings, where like Outpost is a hero offering for AWS, or for us it's Azure Stack and other products. And that's because we're prioritized, we're making sales readiness, and we put a lot of resources behind driving these motions because they're strategically important, for example, for a certain cloud provider. That doesn't mean that this is the only way of have hybrid cloud. I've said that before. When you think back, people used AWS hybrid before AWS announced Outpost. People use Azure in a hybrid manner without owning any of the Azure Stack product or without using Azure Arc. And then again, when we look back to what we have seen even from the data from the participants in the survey I set out, we have connectivity. Almost nobody's talking about connectivity, but it showed up all the way up there with management and security. And so as a conclusion, I think again I haven't seen I have seen just very few, to be quite frankly, good articles about hybrid that really look about holistically and admit, hey, a lot of people define hybrid differently. It means a lot of different things. It's not one product. It's not equal that. So hybrid equal Anthos is just simply flat out false. It's part of a hybrid solution. You can build a hybrid solution with Anthos, but it's not hybrid equals Anthos. And I do believe that analysts and press need to take that in consideration, and cloud providers like ourselves, if we want to provide readiness to you to help you navigate that complexity, navigate the fact that it's so multidimensional, that it's not just one thing that is going to make you successful in your hybrid strategy. There is not like a golden key for everybody. There is a reasons why there are different solutions. There is a reasons why there are different approaches. It's because traditionally enterprise IT has evolved over time, and it's very complex, and you can't just come in and give you a hammer and expect you to fix everything with a hammer. What did you think? Do you think this captures what you were thinking? Please let me know in the comments. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know if I forgot something. If you haven't yet, please subscribe so you get an alert, click on notify if I post a new video. It would be awesome if you can support me. And if you want to have any other specific topic besides networking that I cover in a vlog, please also let me know in the comments here. I will make sure I check them, and I look forward to the next episode.